As a wise man once said, absence makes the heart grow more bitter. I think that's what he said. Not really into saying, so not really sure. I know you were probably pretty worried about me. This is your pal, Harry Lipsy, Harry Chronicles Seinfeld, and I'm back. And maybe this is symbolic, because today we are on episode 10 of Seinfeld, so it's actually season 2, episode 5, The Apartment. And the reason I think this is symbolic is that The Apartment came on 2 months after the phone message last aired, because the phone message had really poor ratings, Nielsen ratings. So NBC executives took it off air for 2 months. A lot of people wondered if it was ever going to come back. Would they just take the episodes that they had already shot, run them, and it was all done? No one knew. So this is kind of the triumphant return of Seinfeld. Maybe this is the triumphant return of Harry Chronicles Seinfeld. Who knows? All 14 of my subscribers have just been hounding me. I mean, I didn't even know I had a fax machine in my apartment, and I've been getting faxes going off all day, all week, all month, wondering, hey, when are you going to come back? Truth is, guys, I'm all over the place in my life. That's just how I am. You never know. You might get a podcast every day. You might get it a couple times a day. You might get it a week, month, year. It's kind of like my shower schedule. You never know when it's going to happen. Could be once or twice a day. Could be once or twice a year. You just never know. Kind of joking, but not really. Well, hey, let's get back to the show. I'm super excited. I'm actually really looking forward to tackling this episode with you guys. I think The Apartment's one of the better earlier episodes out there. Some really solid jokes, especially in little moments. And there's also a pair of characters that we're going to talk about that I'm flabbergasted weren't part of the whole series. They're fantastic. They would be great additions like every other episode even. These guys got me so excited. I mean, they were great off of each other. The lines were okay for them, but man, the actors in their roles just did a terrific job. And if I could have Seinfeld or Larry David in front of me right now, I would ask, hey, why aren't these characters regular characters in Seinfeld? Because usually the series is so good at finding those minor characters that just fit perfectly into the show. But these guys are gone after this episode, so we're going to talk about that later. But let's talk about the premise. Really simple premise, and maybe that's a reason it's not a classic episode. Still very good episode. Okay, the premise, like I said, very simple. Somebody in Jerry's apartment, a 94-year-old woman to be exact, passes away. And, as we know, in an earlier episode, Elaine does not like her roommate situation, doesn't like her apartment situation. She finds out through Jerry that that apartment in Jerry's building is opened up for $400 a month. And so she takes the figures she's going to take the apartment situation. At first, Jerry loves the idea. Jerry was the one who initially went to the apartment managers and said, hey, I have somebody, she'd be perfect. He thought about it once she said, hey, I could get you a spare set of keys. We could come in to each other. We wouldn't even need to knock. We would just come in and out of each other's apartments. We'd know where everybody was at. It would be fantastic. And Jerry thinks, maybe not. Jerry's trying to find a way to get out of it. And then all of a sudden, the apartment managers come to him and say, hey, someone came to us and offered us $5,000 for the apartment. Unless your friend can come up with $5,000, I'm sorry. She can't move in. So Jerry is just psyched. So he tells Elaine about this, but, there is a damper. Kramer, who isn't really part of the episode, is in the apartment at that time and says, hey, Jerry, you're famous. You have $5,000. Give her the money. And so it ends up happening that Jerry is going to borrow the money. And then later in the episode, it kind of takes a swerve. But that's the synopsis of the episode. I like it. The other storyline, so there's 2 storylines, which again is different because in the newer episodes there's 3 or 4 storylines going quick. These earlier episodes kind of go a little slower, take their time, but maybe just a hair lazy as far as not getting as much as, bang for their bucks for their storyline. Because George's storyline doesn't really go anywhere. So Mr. Costanza becomes convinced that if he wears a wedding band, that he's going to get all kinds of chicks. And that's his problem, not his personality or his job or his looks. It's that people, if girls thought he was married, he could get any girl he wanted. So he tries it out. He uses Kramer's dad's wedding band and starts trying to pick up chicks. I think it's a good idea. Not much came of it. I mean, the funny part, to me, I really enjoyed it when he started telling girls, all about his wife. And he was talking too much about his wife. And of course, if anybody can screw it up, it's George Costanza. He had a master plan. They seemed interested. And then he would talk about his wife. So I found that interesting. But that was really it. And then there was a brief little storyline about Kramer putting mousse in his hair. And that, it was interesting. It was funny. But I don't get why Kramer is not cemented in these storylines yet. I don't know if they just thought he was going to be, a good person to have in the episode, maybe for a minute each episode. I don't get it. He does not have any impact in any of these episodes. And there's a Joker here that's funny. But we're missing Kramer, especially if you've seen the whole series. You're like, where's my man? Where's my Kramer? He's not here. He's missing. So interesting. It's really interesting to watch these early episodes and see how different he is. A lot of the, I guess he is a similar character in a lot of ways, but he's not ingrained into these storylines, so it just doesn't pop, maybe like they would earlier. It was good to have an Elaine-centered storyline. Elaine was fantastic. For the very, 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 very first time in the series, we get a Get Out where she pushes Jerry. I loved it because that's one of my favorite things in the whole series that Elaine does is when she yells Get Out and pushes whoever. And it's just, this is the beginning, a very important kind of step into her character. The other thing I liked about her was that she actually started not laughing, but kind of getting excited when Jerry was telling her that the apartment was opening up, that this 94-year-old lady died. And that's what Seinfeld's all about. The four main characters kind of enjoying things, enjoying moments that would be considered unfortunate for other people around them. So that's totally Seinfeld. Enjoyed that part of it. So really quick, I want to talk about, there are two apartment managers, and man, they're funny. They're named Harold and Manny. They just look funny together. One's a really small guy, one's a really big guy, and they're arguing like two old women, and they're just fantastic. The physical comedy bits that could have come from them would just be awesome. And I really enjoyed them in this episode. They are never to be seen from again. So very disappointed if they weren't available to get again, or why, Larry or Jerry didn't feel the need to use them again. But man, I love those guys. They were so funny. It's actually Glenn Shaddix and Tony Plana who you guys would see all the time. They're pretty well-known actors, character actors, and they do just a fantastic job. A couple of my favorite lines. Right in the opening, I really enjoy this. Kramer showing off his new moussed hair and says, "Hey, Jerry, have you ever seen a guy looking this good?" And Jerry gives him this look and says, "Well, looks are really subjective." And I thought that was really, really funny. Also, George in this episode, kind of the first time we see him, playing early in the episodes, he was kind of, confident and that he does well and that he's this big real estate agent. And Jerry comes up to him in this episode and says, "I did the most idiotic thing ever." And George looks him straight in the eye and says, "Hey, nobody's a bigger idiot than me." Yeah, and that's why I do enjoy this episode. I don't do a rating system. If I did, I'd rate it pretty highly. Probably not quite the best episode we've seen yet, but I'd say top 3. Really enjoyable. It's The Apartment. Go check it out. It's funny. And again, watch those two managers, Harold and Manny, those two actors, and think, man, what great characters could they make for the rest of the series? But, it wasn't to be. Well, guys, it's awesome to be back. Aren't you excited to have me back in your homes? Okay, that's creepy. I'm sorry. I don't even know where you live, probably. Well, I really appreciate it, guys. The support's been great. I hope you don't hate me too much. But hey, this is Harry Chronicles Seinfeld. We're going to episode 11 next. Thanks so much for listening.